Alright guys, so Shippy here, and I'm going to be doing a sort of workshop-ish kind of thing. I'm not really sure what to label it as, but basically I'm going to be showing you guys the steps into creating, well, I don't really know what I'm creating right now, but when I figure it out, you guys will be sure to know, get to be watching my process. And the point of this is to be sort of like a tutorial-ish, but as well as showing you my process and my decision making and why I do certain things the way I do. So the first thing I want to go over, you guys notice I'm using skin shade 4, but this is a little bit different than the standard skin shader material. That's because I've applied a different matte cap, and I have mine docked on the side, material, light, and render, because I do use those generally often when I'm starting a sculpt, so it's just easier to have them down on the side. I can do that by going up to my tabs up here and say I want light on a certain side. I can just dock it over here, and there it is. So the first thing I did in skin shader is I turned the specular down to 0, or 0 to 10 should be fine, and I have wax modifiers on. At first, when you turn this on, you're going to get an error message. It's going to tell you to turn on wax preview. And the way you get around that is going into your render tab up here. If you have it docked like myself, you want to go into render properties and turn on activate wax preview, and that gives it like a better fluorescent look in the BPR. You won't notice it on a primitive sphere, but when we get into our shapes later, you'll be able to see the effect that it has. So let's get on to our light cap. Our light cap is the information, or the lights that are applied to our material. So what I'd like to do is I'll turn off the standard light cap that is applied to the material, and I'll just turn that off. Now we go into light cap, and I have 4 different lights set up. I'm just going to go over the settings real quick and what they do, and why they're set up like that. So here's my source light. You would hit a new light, and then that would create a new light. I'm going to go over just what the settings do, and then you can set this up to your preference. I'll also have a download link to this one in the description. So strength is what affects the diffuse, and the diffuse is basically the source lights for this. Specular, if you don't know, it's like shininess and sort of how reflective the material is without it being reflective. You'll see it when we start mixing materials more. But I have that. Here's my specular. You'll go over here. You see I move this around. This is my specular light. Later on, we're gonna need this a little bit more for sort of a presentation of the piece. Right here, I have sort of a bounce light, so you can see it's going off to the side, and that gives us this glow you can see here in the edge of the sphere. And then I have another bounce light coming from the top left, and that's just the yellow color. Blue and yellow are my preferences. You can use whatever you feel looks good. And then I'm just gonna make this a reddish. So we have our primitive sphere, and I'm not going to worry about topology right now because I'm just sculpting, so I'm going to turn on Dynamesh. You see, looking at the polymesh right now, this is our undynameshed mesh. Polygons are in order. It's not optimized incredibly well, but it's got 8K quads. Way to Dynamesh this. You see there's a lot more information here in our mesh. It's a bit more sloppy, but we don't have to worry about that for now. So now we can just start sculpting away. I'm not really sure what I want to do yet, but I'm just going to go with it. Right now I'm using my move tool to sort of block out areas of what I want. I'm not really sure with what I'm going with here. I'm going to hold down Control and drag, and then a quick tip, as opposed to going to your masking and hitting blur masking, just hold down Control and click on the masked area, and then in any other programs like this, to invert selection, hit Control I. I'm just going to drag this out. And then the nice feature about Dynamesh, you can see here our polygons are all stretched out. But what I can do is if I go to create a mask, but I don't select any of the mesh, it will remesh our object, and it will give us new geometry to work with in those areas. So I'm just going to keep blocking out our shape. I'm not sure what I want to do yet. I am going to have a silhouette material on hand, so I'll just go to my chalk, and then material, modifiers, opacity, make this black, use my silhouette, and then the center. So now we have this. Have this protruding from his face a bit more. And this is where I have to go back to my material, my skin shade 4, to see what's going on. I'm not sure what I want to do with this quite yet. That's fine though. Let's see. I'm gonna grab my inflate brush, which is right here, and I'm just gonna draw in some geometry here. Make this a little bit thicker, because right now it's a bit thin. If I tried to do anything with it, probably wouldn't come out too well. So this is a general shape. I think I'm gonna do sort of an alienish thing with this. I'm not really sure yet. Let's see, thinner neck. I'm still going to try and keep this to a point anatomically correct, although it's going to be a very extreme version of it. I'm going to reproject again. You can see my background change when I change the center. I usually work with it all black, but for this I'm probably going to have to get a middle tone going for there, just because of the nature of this matte cap is a bit lighter than something else, or than any other matte caps I use. Local symmetry. So I want this to come in a little bit more. Alright, so I think we have something general going, which I could work with. I still have room to change it up because I am using Dynamesh. So it's pretty much just hit or miss here. I'm going to see what I can get going. Your resolution for Dynamesh is basically the amount of geometry you're going to have in each remesh. So I turn that down a little bit because I don't want something too crazy to work with. I'm not doing any detailing yet or pretty much anything. I'm just kind of trying to get my shapes down. I want this to be very evident that this isn't part of his skin. It's coming out. So, sculpting details here. It's going to be very uneven surface. An eye, maybe another one. Okay. So I'm going to pull this in. We have two eyes going. Third, the freehand, which with the outer selection, that would give me the square rectangle selection. I'm going to use the lasso tool. And this works just like any lasso tool in any other program. I'm going to come in here, select above the eye. And I'm going to blur this selection a bit. I'm going to bring this forward a little bit. So, I'm going to build some geometry back here. Show some muscle coming from his neck. I'm just trying to block out some form here. Maybe another eye. And while I'm doing all of this, I do have symmetry on. Asymmetrical sculpts, one, it would take a lot longer. And two, I'll just get lost in the detail I have to put into each side. So we have both, or I'll just do two eyes, I guess. Let's see. I want this to be a little bit thinner. I really have no idea where I'm going with this yet, but just wait. A little bit of some anatomical correctness to this monster, whatever it is I'm making. So it's still gonna have some anatomical properties, so shout out to Smokey. But nothing intense or crazy. It's pretty simple. I do want to give this thing a mouth, so I'm going to head over to my Damien standard brush, and then here's a little method that I learned from Ryan King's line. I'm going to draw one line here, Miranda lines, and another one right there. So I'm going to take my clay brush now, and just build up the geometry. Okay, now I'm going a bit overboard with the Dynamesh, but that's fine. I can always lower it. Memory mesh. 400k. So, I'm going to keep going in here with my clay brush. And then this is a bit weird, but I'm actually going to use my trim dynamic, and I'm going to establish my planes. This is downward plane, and then upward plane for the lower lip. Alright, I'm just going to give up on that. Actually, I've seen a concept, something like this. So let's build up here. So something like this coming from his face. Okay, so of establishing a face here. It is a creature, so I'm not going to go overboard on keeping detail in the face and giving it some kind of values. When I'm sculpting, I'm just kind of establishing what I want and how I'm going to use certain elements of this to portray what my idea is. And right now, I'm not really sure what it is I want to do with this. But whatever. Just gonna pull this out. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep establishing these lines to his face. I don't know what that is, but I like to do it a lot. I like the pattern. It's almost like a resin-ish look, or even veins coming from his face. I'm trying to establish an eye here, but coming from the frontal view, I'd like it to be seen. So, I have some sort of eye going here. Not really sure what else is kind of working with it here. We're at 400k quads. I'm gonna go with my inflate brush and give more definition. I don't know. I'm gonna move his chest back, actually. Gonna try and give more room to his face and make this come out more. Okay, so now I have some removal of geometry to do where I'm pushing in here, so okay. So come out on the shoulders a bit more. If you don't know how I'm doing this, like most tools, this does have an Alt feature. So you hold down Alt and click and drag in any direction. It's just gonna pull the geometry in that direction, and it's a bit helpful for moving certain elements in a specific direction, because moving it down from this direction can be pretty difficult, especially if you're working with something that has many different levels to it. So that's just something I do. I think it's time to remesh. Looking at our mesh now, it's a mess for as far as topology. So we're gonna go into our subtools. We're gonna duplicate this, and then with a duplicated mesh, we're gonna go to geometry and remesh. I have this up here in my layout. this does is it creates a it just creates a new mesh. It's just a lower quad count and better flow topology. So I'm going to turn this one off. If you look in the poly frame, it's got pretty good topology. It's got a decent flow. It's all, I didn't use the topology tools for this, but it did give me a pretty good mesh to work with. So if I wanted to, what I could do is I can go into here and I can go into the projection tab, which is down here in your subtool palette. So I'm going to go here, project, Control D to divide, project, Control D, project, polyframes, and there we go. We have good topology on this initially, on essentially the same mesh as we had before. So this is our bad topology mesh, which isn't that bad, but we can delete it anyway. So now we get back into our sculpting. I'm just going to subdivide it one more time. Not sure what I want to do here. I want to establish this a bit more. So establishing that there is depth here a bit more because of the lines and the contours. I want to get going with this. I want it to be like almost as if he has tubes coming from his face, so on the sides here, and that can that flow can lead kind of into his like neck, I guess. I'm sorry if I'm saying and stuff a lot, but I'm not really sure what I want to do here. Okay, so I think that's looking good. So I'm back in the second subdivision level, and I'm gonna try and block out certain areas where we're gonna be sculpting later, but that are a bit jagged. So like right here, I do want there to be a difference here. I want it to be noticeable. I want it to be more subtle. And the build up here it's a bit harsh, so I'm just gonna go and try and fix this up a little bit. This top part's going to be pretty interesting, especially when we get into texturing. We use a few different tools to almost show that's not even like skin or anything. Turn my lazy step off. What lazy step does is kind of like a steady hand tool. One of the features I wish Photoshop had, but it doesn't. So what it does is kind of separates your strokes. You see that red line we have, and it gives you a steadier hand because it's a little bit slower, but it doesn't matter all that much in this workflow, or at least this step. Maybe once the detailing comes. So I live and die by the the clay buildup and the clay tubes for the lower subdivisions, and just when I'm blocking out geometry, sort of figure out what I want to do. So like right here, the standard brush wouldn't be the best fit for that, so I do tend to stick to the building up tools, just because it better suits the workflow. Gonna go up another subdivision level. The shortcuts for that is Control D is to subdivide again, D is to go up in subdivision levels, and then Shift D is to go down or lower your subdivision level. So those are some quick shortcuts that can help in your workflow. Up to you. So I'm gonna pen some eyes for this, just to fill in the holes I'm trying to make and make sure I can preserve them well. Whoops. Scale this down. A quick thing for production flow: if you want a scary monster, small eyes work better. I'm not sure why, but larger eyes, you usually see them on like anime characters or smaller animals. They're pretty cute, but the smaller eyes, the things you can't see that well, those work best for something that's kind of mysterious or even creepy, depending on what you're going for. So I'm just going to mirror this over, and now I have something to work around as far as my eyes go. Because choosing the eyes for this I know it's going to be difficult already, just from the form of it, how his face is shaped, because this isn't general anatomy, this is something completely different, so I do want to make this as easy as possible myself. So now I can just build up around the eyes and get something going here a little bit, little by little. Let's check how long we are in. Half hour in. Alright. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to fit the eye better. Alright, so there's his second set of eyes. I'm gonna move the mesh to fit this a little bit better. So what I can do from here is something about this I don't really like it, so I'm just gonna go down a few subdivision levels and I'm gonna take out some of the geometry here. So there's not as much build up towards the neck, and then I would like this to be flatter. So what I want to do, this is so incredibly awkward just sitting here trying to keep the speech going, but
What?
yeah.
Is it no?
Alright, so I'm just gonna try and define this area a bit more. I'm not sure what I want to do with it yet, but I don't know. So still trying to get a general shape down. So I kind of gave up on having that whole like mouth bit. I'm gonna try something a little bit different. I've seen some of this in concept sketches where he doesn't actually have a mouth. He has something almost like a plate covering him. What I can do here is I go in with my slash tool. Lazy smooth, lazy step is on. Come on. So now there's like a flow going into it, and it's a little bit easier. It's like cheating for me because my anatomy studies are a bit off as far as creating a mouth for creatures especially because while he would have a mouth that would be anatomically correct, it's a very extreme form. I can't follow many of the same steps that I would normally, so it's just making it a little bit easier for me. Try not to be too time consuming, seeing as 34 minutes in. But it is a workshop, so I'm going to take my time. And I'm going to try and really show my workflow. Get my point across, hopefully. Slash again. The focal shift on slash is usually pretty high. I like to turn that down. Okay, so he's got like a plate on his mouth, and whatever it may be, I'm not sure yet, but we have some sort of mouth established. That's really what I'm trying to do here. So now I'm going to be switching over between the clay and the standard brush. Just to, because at this point smoothing, with the amount of geometry I have, smoothing is not as easy. There's too much geometry for it, so it'll take a while, and I'm just not trying to make this very drawn out. So you see he's got very small eyes, very mean looking, and at the same time he's very small. It's a bit silly looking, but whatever. So I'm okay with how this is coming along so far. Standard brush. The brains in here, maybe, I don't know. Got the veins. Go up another subdivision level, so my smoothing isn't too much. So this part here, I can't remember the name of the fish, but there is a deep sea fish that it has a clear dome, and you can see its brain and such. So I'm going off having either light skin, very thin skin, so it's very veiny, and the vasculinity of the brain shows, and it peeks through to his face, into his eyes and such. It's a bit different. So this pattern works well. It does draw some attention to his face, which is kind of the focus point here, but it also, if I was going to do like a subdermal map for this, which I'm not, I'm only going to stay inside of Zbrush, but if I was exporting this into Maya and I did a subdermal map, I could show the blood flow from the veins into everything else. So it's a bit messy. I'm going to go down to subdivision level and clean it up. something else. The brush modifier tab in the standard brush, it's a very helpful tool. Basically what it does is it turns it into almost a Damien standard brush in a way that it pulls geometry to the center and to the peak pretty much, and it gives off sort of a sharper look near his mouth is where I would like that, and it's a bit quicker than the Damien standard brush. Right now, Damien standard brush is very sharp, and it's not really what I'm going for here. So standard brush with a modifier works just fine. You can have very small information here, because there are small veins on your face and everything in your body. And this is a bit overboard, but it's fine. I'm going to go up another subdivision level. Now we're in the 5th subdivision level with about 4 million polygons, which is a bit much, but we're going to have some high quality textures later. That's nice. Okay, so it's starting to come together a bit. I'm gonna leave this part here alone, just for now until we get some texturing, because I do have an idea for that texturing. I saw it, or actually another model. We're gonna use a different brush aside from an alpha to give that texture. That should be interesting. So very veiny. I'm gonna go back to solid. Oh, that's too much. So kind of a gray, and you can see the detail on his face. So. All these veins can be leading to his neck area, or to the back of his head. And now you're starting to see the wax preview, where that comes in a bit. It's very translucent looking. Define the eyes. These eyes are really giving me trouble. I'm trying to keep that shape I had before, but I was trying to define them a bit more. So that works. that's looking pretty good, at least in my opinion. Over here is just a mess. I'm gonna go down to the third subdivision level, try and clean this up a bit. Okay. So I think it's a bit better than what it was. Nothing amazing. I'm not going for. That's not really the focus. So let's give or take. For that, it would be nice if it looked a little bit better. I'm not gonna care all that much about it. It's just a bust. Render. I'm gonna turn down the shadows a bit. BPR. Not in the shadows. Render properties. No. It's some preferences. I think it's in BPR shot. No. Can't remember. Alright, well, I'm not going to turn down the shadows, I guess, because I can't remember where it is. But I'm going to keep going in here with more detail. So that should be good. It's pretty clear as to what it's supposed to be. We got the veins going. Shading going here. Alright. So got a shape down pretty well. It's pretty plain. There's no textures, nothing on it. So. So that should be pretty good. I'm not sure what else I want to do. I could clean this up. Debating on giving it some nostrils or something. It would make sense for him to breathe. Or I could show that on the pores of his skin. I'm not sure. We'll see. Once again, holding on Alt to subtract. Whoops. We have to go down. Gotta go back into the third. Hopefully this doesn't crash on me. So I can invert my selection. I'm gonna tap on it. I'm just gonna bring this forward. I'm just gonna try and flatten this out. You don't know, with the move tool, it doesn't just move. It can also, you can just use the bottom one to flatten areas, or just create some geometry, flatten surfaces, and it's gonna have a clear bottom of my bust. And it doesn't matter, but okay. So now he's got some defined pectorals going. If I wanted to, I could put definition to his trapeziuses. So now we're getting back into that human anatomy. So now we got some anatomical correctness here. I'm gonna try and even this out and build it up a little bit better. It's gonna be pretty in shape. So I'm gonna have the stretching of the skin in his pectorals. I'm gonna go up another subdivision level, do the same thing again. You don't know how I'm locking my camera when I'm rotating, so if I wanted to lock it forward, I can just hold down shift and it will lock the camera into the nearest position that I'm in. So I'm gonna keep drawing in this detail to his pectorals. And it does pinch to a little bit, to a point, because there's stretching of the skin. If you think of stretching in fabric, it's the same idea. So that's not bad. We're looking at a pretty decent bust to work with. And go to it not that dark, but like here for the gray material, and we can see where we're going with our general flow. I would like to add a few more details to the mesh. I'm gonna fix this lower portion here to look more like the top. Okay, so we got something pretty nice here going. Half robot, half alien, whatever you want to call it. We can add some veins into his pec area. Gonna go down subdivision. Alright, so let's look at our mesh so far. Control S. So this is a general shape we got going on here. You can see here we have, so this lump, I imagine this is the stretched out areas where the brain would be leading into his face. There's a lot going on here. We have the stretching of the skin in his pectorals. You see that here. I probably should go into more detail there because it's pretty bland, especially considering the line work I'm trying to get going on here. But we have a semi-decent mesh going on here. Nothing really going on behind because that part will literally never be seen. So that's just fine for now. I'm gonna control N to get rid of that, and then it's gonna sculpt in some more details here because this doesn't look right to me. Pinch again. Gotta give this guy a scar somewhere. I'm not sure where, but he's getting a nasty fucking scar. I can do that with my my /1 brush. If you don't know how to get the /1 brush, it's actually not immediately installed into Zbrush. You have to go into your light box and then look for slash, and it would be in here, but I have it in my startup menu, so that's where you would find it. Make sure my symmetry is off. Turn off the Z intensity. Alright, so we got a scar there. So some more detail in the pec area. So I do feel like this is a bit bland compared to the rest of the head. That's a problem. I do tend to have I'll spend too much time on one area of the mesh, and then I have to work a bit diligently to attempt to make the rest of it match. Okay. So, relatively good process. About an hour in, and we're pretty much done with our mesh. I'm trying to go a little bit slower here, trying to explain my thoughts a bit more. This could be a workshop, I'm not sure at this point. I'm going to go down to subdivision level. These veins, they do tend to be a bit harsh, especially with the modifier that I have on my smooth brush, or my standard brush. So there's nothing wrong with going in between subdivision levels for sculpting in certain details. But now I have this nice vein network in his chest, and I could have that all lead into one back into his skull, but it's not necessary. I'm just gonna leave it at this. That's part one. Building our mesh. We have relatively decent topology. About 17k quads, which isn't bad, especially coming from our very poor topology mesh, which we use from Dynamesh, and there's about 70k quads. It's just a mess. So we're making good progress here. This is starting to look good. I'll do another view of it, and we're making good progress here. We have texturing next, poly painting, and then we have posing and rendering. So about 3 more parts to go. I'll see you guys in the rest of them.